Can you picture a reality where your smartphone outsmarts you, cars navigate without human input, and missiles blaze through the skies faster than the speed of sound itself? This may sound like science fiction, but get ready. That future isn't just around the corner, it's already arrived. And the unlikely force shaping this brave new world? China. While the US has historically been a driving force in technological breakthroughs, there are growing indicators that China is quickly closing the gap and surpassing America in several critical areas. Before we quickly explore the factors that have propelled China's ascent, what are your thoughts on the US tech industry and its supposed fall from grace? Let us know with some facts. For years, the United States has worn the crown as the world's undisputed innovation king. American scientists and inventors were the ones always pushing the boundaries, coming up with game-changing ideas and groundbreaking technologies that left everyone else playing catch-up. But the tides are turning. Recent reports are sounding the alarm that America's technological dominance is being seriously challenged by an unlikely rival, China. Just look at the findings from prestigious organizations like the National Science Foundation. According to 2022 assessments, China has zoomed past the US in several major metrics, securing more scientific patents and publishing more cutting-edge research papers than any other nation. The Australian Strategic Policy Institute recently declared that China is ahead of America in 37 out of 44 technology areas. Fortune magazine and the Wall Street Journal echo these figures, the former reporting China's quantity and quality of academic research is better than the US. In scientific papers, China is said to be ahead by a large margin. This is all thanks to three primary factors: money, ideology, and brains. China is raking in patents and research papers like there's no tomorrow, from AI and robotics to hypersonic missiles. Since Deng Xiaoping's market reforms in 1980, China's economic growth has skyrocketed, far outpacing the US, especially after the 2008 recession. This economic prowess has translated into massive investments in research and development. While the US grapples with soaring costs in areas like healthcare, criminal justice, and welfare, China can divert more resources towards strategic technological development. The Chinese government also has a laser-focused approach to achieving its science and tech goals. They set their sights, allocate the funds, and pursue those aims with the determination of a bulldog on a pork chop. No bureaucratic red tape or corporate lobbying to slow them down. Just good old-fashioned efficiency. Very important guests in the US-China technology rivalry are semiconductors or computer chips. These tiny morsels of silicon are the brains behind almost every modern gadget, from your smartphone to guided missiles. Whoever controls the chip supply essentially calls the shots. Now, the United States hasn't been sitting idle while China makes its semiconductor power play. No, sir. They've been busy trying to restrict access to advanced technologies through some economic sanctions. The logic? Maintain that lead and prevent China from using American commercial tech for military purposes. Sounds reasonable enough, right? Well, history has shown time and time again that rising powers don't just roll over when denied access to critical resources. Nope, their typical response involves going into subsidy overdrive and pushing their businesses to level up into high-value, self-sufficient heavyweights. And China is following that script to a T. President Xi has been beating the self-reliance in science and tech drum, and he understands that innovating in core technologies is pivotal for China to survive the intense international competition, aka the beatdown Washington keeps trying to deliver. And they're putting their money where Xi's mouth is, allocating billions upon billions to prop up China's domestic chip-making prowess. We're talking $30 billion from Guangzhou alone as startup capital, with Beijing dangling an extra $143 billion in subsidies and tax credits as an added incentive. Thanks to the structure of global supply chains, the US is essentially battling with one hand tied behind its back. See, at the end of the day, businesses will prioritize profits over playing patriotic cheerleader for national security interests. And their willingness to toe the government line depends on where they sit in the supply chain pecking order. Time and time again, those high-value American firms have resisted policies that disrupt their cash flow and bottom line. But for China's low-tier manufacturers, Beijing's industrial upgrade initiatives represent a golden opportunity to stride up the value chain and start raking in the big bucks. We're seeing this play out spectacularly in the chip-making world. While US chip design mavens like NVIDIA keep finding clever loopholes to sidestep export controls, their Chinese counterparts have gone fully Monty, enlisting Beijing's help. Companies like Huawei have had their chipset ambitions bankrolled by investment funds in Shenzhen and Guangzhou, which have poured billions into nurturing an entire self-sufficient supply network, from optical specialists and equipment developers to materials suppliers. Perhaps one key ingredient in China's recipe for innovation supremacy that may just be the most critical of all is brainpower. Raw, unadulterated genius fueling the furnaces. While America remains infatuated with box-checking diversity at the expense of nurturing elite talents, China has doubled down on an educational model that puts meritocracy above all else. A framework tailor-made for harvesting the globe's sharpest minds and funneling them towards the vanguard of discovery. According to metrics, the top Chinese universities are essentially outperforming America's most prestigious institutions at raising the next generation of STEM savants. China's top academic bastions are producing 9 times more STEM graduates than their American peers, a veritable tsunami of highly trained experts poised to capitalize on the next generational leaps. President Biden has acknowledged the severity of this situation. In his State of the Union address in February 2023, he admitted that while the US is investing in American innovation, China's government is hell-bent on achieving full-blown domination of these future-defining industries. And speaking of domination, the report raises alarms that China is at high risk of establishing monopolies in 8 different technology domains. Everything from nanomaterials and synthetic biology to hydrogen and ammonia power generation. The writing is on the wall. Whether it's the surprise hypersonic missile tests of 2021 that kept US intelligence up at night, or the data showing China's institutions accounting for nearly half of all hypersonic research papers, the picture is growing impossible to ignore. China's technological ascent is an existential threat that democratic nations can no longer afford to dismiss. At this point, to still pretend the US sits unchallenged atop the technological throne is an act of delusion. China has already planted its flag at the summit. The only remaining question is whether America's prolonged bender of self-destructive decadence has left it with any negotiable path toward remounting that peak. Through strategic collaboration and a bit of that classic Western innovation spirit, perhaps the US can regain its technological edge and ensure that democratic values continue shaping humanity's future. Either that, or resign themselves to living in a world directed by Chinese tech supremacy.